The rain had just stopped when I opened the kitchen window that morning. The air smelled fresh, but my heart was heavy. My name is Clara, and I was 36 years old when I began to realize my marriage was falling apart. My husband's name was Daniel. He was older than me, calm on the outside, and respected by everyone who knew him. We had been married for 15 years and had 2 daughters, Emily and Grace. From the outside, we looked like a happy family. Inside, something had broken long before I could name it. Every morning used to be the same. Daniel left early for work, and I stayed home to take care of the children. I cooked, cleaned, and managed everything around the house. I did not complain. I believed this was what love meant, taking care of your family even when you were tired. I thought we were happy. I thought Daniel still loved me, but I was wrong. It started quietly, like a small shadow in the corner of the room. Daniel began coming home later than usual. He said he was busy with work. I believed him at first. Then his phone became his secret world. He smiled at messages that were not from me. He turned his screen away when I passed by. I tried to tell myself that I was imagining things, but deep inside I felt fear growing. Something was not right. One night when he was sleeping, I picked up his phone. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped it. I wanted to know the truth. Before I could open his messages, he woke up. His eyes were cold. "Why are you touching my phone?" he asked, his voice hard. I froze. I wanted to explain, but no words came out. "You have no right," he said sharply. I put the phone down and turned away. I could not sleep the rest of the night. I kept thinking about what he was hiding from me. The next day, when he left for work, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the phone bill. Something told me to check it. There was one number he called every day, even on weekends. I wrote it down, waited for a moment, and then called. A woman's voice answered. Her tone was calm, almost distant. When I asked if she knew Daniel, she said yes. Then she said words that broke something deep inside me. "Yes, I am his girlfriend." My breath stopped. For a moment, I could not move. I asked who she was. She told me she was married too and had a child. Then she laughed softly and said, "It's not my problem if my husband finds out." I hung up the phone. My hands were cold. My heart felt like glass breaking inside my chest. When Daniel came home that night, I confronted him. I told him I knew everything. He did not deny it. He looked at me without emotion and said, "I'll end it when I decide to." I stood there, feeling small and helpless. I wanted to scream, to make him understand the pain he was causing, but no sound came. Tears filled my eyes, but he just walked away. That night, I remembered our wedding day. I saw his smile, his promise to love me forever. I remembered how we held hands when Emily was born and how proud he was to become a father. But the man I had loved for years was gone. In his place stood a stranger with no kindness in his eyes. I wanted to believe he could change. I had forgiven him once before, many years ago, after our first daughter was born. He had cheated then too, but I thought it was over. I was wrong again. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. Daniel continued to come home late. Sometimes he did not come home at all. When I asked where he was, he said he was working late. His voice carried anger, as if I was the one who had done something wrong. He no longer looked at me the way he used to. He had stopped calling me by my name. I became invisible in my own home. Our eldest daughter, Emily, began to notice. She was 14 and old enough to understand. One night she stood between us and told her father to stop hurting me. Daniel shouted at her. His voice was harsh, full of rage. She ran to her room in tears. I held her later, her small body shaking against mine, and I hated him for what he was doing to our family. Our younger daughter, Grace, was only 2. She was too young to understand, but I knew one day she would. I had no job and no savings of my own. The apartment was in my name, but the loan was heavy. Daniel had planned it that way. If he left, I would still carry the debt. He reminded me of this often. One night, while I was crying in the kitchen, he looked at me and said coldly, "I can do whatever I want." His words felt like a slap. I realized then that he no longer cared about me, our children, or our home. He only cared about himself. Days passed slowly. I tried to keep the house in order, to cook, to smile for the children, but inside I was falling apart. I could not eat. I could not sleep. I lost weight, and my hair began to fall out. My doctor told me to rest, but how could I? Every night I lay awake, listening for the sound of his car, hoping he would come home. Every time I heard a noise outside, I thought it was him. But most nights, he never came. My friends noticed the change in me. One afternoon, my best friend Maya came over. She listened quietly as I told her everything. When I finished, she said softly, "Clara, you need to leave him." Her voice was gentle but firm. I wanted to listen, but I felt trapped. "Where will I go?" I asked. "How will I live with 2 children?" My family told me to wait, to be patient, to pray that Daniel would come back to his senses. But I knew, deep down, that he would not. Still, I hoped. Every day, I hoped he would look at me the way he used to. I hoped he would see how much pain he was causing. I hoped he would remember our family. One evening, I cooked his favorite dinner. I wanted to make peace. I wanted him to come home and see that we could still fix things. I waited for hours. When he finally walked in, his face was serious. He did not look at me with love. He looked at me with distance. "We need to talk," he said. My hands trembled. I already knew what was coming, but I still asked, "What is it?" He looked straight at me and said, "I don't love you anymore." The words were like knives. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. I asked, "So what now?" he said. "I'm leaving." I watched him pack his bags. I sat on the sofa, too weak to move. He took his clothes, his books, even his watch. Our daughters cried, begging him not to go. He hugged them quickly, said he was sorry, and walked out the door. I heard the sound of his car leaving the driveway, and then everything went silent. I sat there for hours. The house was dark except for the small lamp in the corner. My tears would not stop. I felt like my life had ended. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed. His side was cold. Emily and Grace were still asleep. I looked at them and forced myself to smile. I made breakfast, brushed Emily's hair, and told her to be strong. I did not want them to see me broken, even though I was. That afternoon, I went out to buy milk. As I walked past a cafe, I saw something that shattered me all over again. Daniel was sitting inside with her. She was beautiful, smiling, touching his hand. He looked happy. Happier than he had been with me in years. My knees felt weak, and I turned away before they could see me. I walked home quickly, holding my bag tight against my chest. When I reached home, I locked the door, sat on the floor, and cried until I had no tears left. That night, when the house was quiet, I walked into the children's room. Emily and Grace were sleeping peacefully. I looked at them and whispered, "I will be strong for you." I touched their soft hair and kissed their foreheads. Then I went back to my room, slipped off my wedding ring, and placed it on the nightstand. It was the heaviest thing I had ever taken off. The next morning, I made coffee and watched the sunrise. The pain was still sharp, but I knew one thing. Daniel had left me, but I was still here. For my daughters, I would survive. Before I continue with the story, please like, subscribe, share, and let me know in the comments where you are listening from. Your support means a lot. Now, let's continue. The first few weeks after Daniel left were the hardest of my life. Every morning, I woke up with the same heavy feeling in my chest. The house felt too quiet. Even the air seemed colder. His toothbrush was gone from the bathroom. His shoes were missing from the doorway. His voice no longer filled the rooms. I tried to pretend I was fine, but my eyes gave me away. I looked tired, older, and lost. Emily stopped talking much. She went to school but came home in silence. At night, I sometimes heard her crying in her bed. Grace, our little one, did not understand. She asked, "Where is Daddy?" I said he was working far away. I wanted to protect her, to give her time before she learned the truth. Every time she said his name, I felt my heart tighten. I still needed to take care of the children. I made breakfast, washed clothes, helped with homework, and put Grace to bed. But every simple task felt heavy. Sometimes I would stop in the middle of cooking and just stand there, staring at the wall. It was as if my body was moving, but my heart was still frozen in that moment when he walked out the door. Bills started to arrive. electricity, rent, school fees, food. I checked my account and saw only a small amount left. Daniel had stopped sending money. He knew how much I depended on him, but he did not care. I called him twice, but he did not answer. The third time he picked up, his voice was cold. "You have to manage on your own now," he said. I tried to speak, but he ended the call. I sat at the table holding the phone, shaking. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about how I would survive. I had been a full-time mother for so many years. I had no recent work experience, but I knew I could not give up. I needed to stand up for my children. I started looking for jobs online. Most companies wanted people with experience. I sent out applications anyway. Some weeks passed before I finally got a call for an interview at a small office near our home. On the morning of the interview, I wore my best blouse and tied my hair neatly. Emily smiled at me and said, "You look nice, Mom." Her small encouragement gave me strength. I walked to the office with my heart racing. The manager was kind. He asked about my past work and why I wanted the job. I told him the truth. "I need to take care of my daughters," I said. "I will work hard." He nodded. 2 days later, I got the job. It was only part-time and the pay was low, but it gave me hope. Working again after so many years was not easy. I made mistakes at first. My hands shook when I typed. My eyes hurt from the computer screen. But I learned. Slowly, I began to feel useful again. I met other women at the office. Some were divorced, some single mothers. One of them, Laura, became my friend. She told me, "You're stronger than you think." Her words stayed with me. At home, I tried to keep life normal for the girls. We ate dinner together and watched small shows before bed. Emily sometimes asked questions about her father. I told her he was fine but needed time. I did not want her to hate him. I just wanted her to heal. She was growing fast, and I wanted her to believe in love again, even if mine had failed. One evening, when I came home from work, there was an envelope under the door. It was from Daniel. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a short note and some money. "For the girls," it said. No greeting, no question, no warmth. I stared at the handwriting for a long time. It was strange how familiar it felt, and yet so empty now. That night, I sat by the window after putting the children to sleep. The sky was dark, and rain started to fall softly. I watched the drops slide down the glass. I thought about how I used to wait for Daniel's car lights at this same window. Now I waited for nothing. I realized how much of my life had been spent waiting for his love, his change, his care. I decided that night I would not wait anymore. The next morning, I made a plan. I began saving a little from each month's pay. It was not much, but I wanted to build a small safety net. I sold some old clothes and furniture we did not need. I cleaned every corner of the house, It felt like I was cleaning my life too. Piece by piece, I tried to put myself together. Still, there were moments when the pain returned suddenly. Sometimes I heard a song that reminded me of him, or saw a couple walking hand in hand, and I felt tears rise again. But now, I let them fall without shame. Crying no longer made me weak. It made me honest. One Sunday, while walking in the park with the children, I saw Daniel again. He was with the same woman. They were holding hands, laughing. Grace ran toward him, calling, "Daddy!" He looked surprised. He bent down to hug her but avoided my eyes. Emily stood beside me, her face pale. The woman smiled politely, but I saw the pride in her eyes. I felt anger rise, but I kept quiet. I told Grace it was time to go. As we walked away, I could feel Daniel watching us, but he said nothing. That night, Emily cried. "Why did he leave us, Mom?" she asked. I held her close and said softly, "Sometimes people change, but we will be okay." She nodded, but I could see how much it hurt her. I wished I could protect her heart from breaking like mine. Months passed. Life did not become easy, but it became calmer. I learned to live without waiting for messages or calls. The house felt smaller but peaceful. Emily did better at school. Grace laughed more often. And me, I began to breathe again. One evening, I took out my wedding album from the closet. I looked at the pictures, our smiles, our promises, our beginning. Then I closed the book and placed it back. I no longer needed to keep those memories close. They were a part of who I was, but not who I wanted to be. That night, before going to bed, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My face was tired, but my eyes were steady. For the first time in a long time, I felt something new. Peace. My marriage was in pieces, but I was still whole. I had built a new kind of strength, one that no one could take from me. I turned off the light, kissed my daughters goodnight, and whispered to myself, "We're going to be okay." Winter came quietly that year. The mornings were cold, and I often watched the soft white light fill the room before waking the girls. Life had changed completely, but in a strange way, it felt steadier now. I was no longer walking on broken glass every day. The pain was still there, but it had lost its power over me. At work, I began to smile again. My colleagues noticed the change. I helped others more, stayed focused, and even started joining small office lunches. Laura told me I looked happier. I said I was learning to be. I realized that healing did not mean forgetting. It meant accepting what happened and choosing to live anyway. One evening, after putting Grace to bed, I sat with Emily on the balcony. She was quieter these days, but stronger too. She said, "Mom, you're different now. You don't cry anymore." I smiled and told her, "I do, but not for the same reasons." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we watched the sky together. It was one of those small, peaceful moments that felt like a gift. A few months later, Daniel came to visit. He said he wanted to see the girls. I let him in. He looked thinner, older, and his eyes seemed tired. Grace ran to him happily, but Emily stayed near me. He asked how we were doing. I said we were fine. He looked around the house, maybe noticing the warmth he had left behind. For a moment, I thought he might say he was sorry, but he didn't. He stayed silent, then said goodbye and left again. I watched him walk away without pain this time. My heart was calm. I no longer wanted him back. The next morning, I woke early and sat by the window with my coffee. The light touched the walls softly. I thought about everything I had survived. The betrayal, the fear, the long nights alone. I had faced all of it, and I was still here, stronger, wiser, and still capable of love. I decided to do something new for myself. I joined an evening class in design. I wanted to learn a skill, to create something beautiful again. The first day, I felt nervous, but when I started drawing, I felt free. Each line I made reminded me that I was building a future from the pieces of my past. Sometimes, when I walk home with the girls, I see couples holding hands. It no longer hurts. I still believe in love, but now I understand that love must begin with self-respect. I learned that peace can grow in the quiet spaces after loss. My marriage had broken, but life had not. It was only changing shape. I was no longer the woman who waited by the window. I was the woman who opened it to let the light in. And that, I thought, was enough. If you liked my story, please like, comment, and share. What would you do if love came to you when you were not looking for it? Would you trust it, or would you be afraid to believe in it? This is my story, and I want to share it with you. My name is Sarah. I am 28 years old. I work in a small factory in the city. The factory makes simple plastic parts. My job is not very special. I stand by a table and pack the items into boxes. I start at 8 in the morning and finish at 5 in the evening. Every day feels the same. Before I go deeper into my story, please remember to subscribe, like, and share this video if you enjoy listening. It helps me bring you more stories. Thank you. Life in the factory was simple but also quiet. I was not close with many people there. Most workers came, did their job, and went home. During breaks, some sat together and laughed, but I often sat alone with my tea. I did not mind, but sometimes I felt lonely. I told myself that good things take time. Then one day, something changed. The old factory manager retired. A new manager came. His name was Peter. He was 35 years old. He was tall and wore glasses. He did not look very strict. When he came to the factory floor for the first time, he smiled at all of us. "Good morning," he said in a calm voice. He walked to each worker, shook hands, and introduced himself. When he came to me, he smiled and said, "Hi, I'm Peter. I am happy to work here." I smiled back and said, "Hello, I am Sarah." For some reason, my face felt warm. From that moment, I knew he was not like other managers I had seen before. Peter was kind. He asked questions about our work. He listened to our answers. He even helped to lift heavy boxes during lunch breaks. No other manager had ever done that. The other workers were surprised too. As weeks passed, I started to enjoy my work more. I looked forward to the mornings because I knew Peter would greet me. Every day he said, "Good morning, Sarah." And every day I smiled. It felt nice. It felt simple. We started to talk a little during the short breaks. We talked about the weather, the food in the cafeteria, and sometimes about books. He told me he liked reading in the evenings. I told him I liked walking in the park near my house. He laughed at my small jokes, and I laughed at his too. Still, I tried not to hope too much. Maybe he was just being kind. Maybe he was the same with everyone. I did not want to dream. One afternoon, the machine near my table stopped working. I felt nervous because I did not know how to fix it. Peter walked over. He bent down, checked the machine, and pressed a few buttons. The machine started again. He looked at me with a smile. "Don't worry, Sarah. Machines stop sometimes. It's not your fault." I felt my heart beat faster. I whispered, "Thank you." He only smiled again and walked away. That evening, when I walked home, I thought about his calm voice. A few days later, Peter came to me during lunch. He asked, "Would you like to eat together today?" I was surprised. No manager had ever asked me that before. I said yes. We sat at a small table in the corner of the cafeteria. We didn't talk about work. We talked about our lives. He told me that he moved to this city last month. He said he was not married. When I heard the word single, I felt something inside me. I tried to hide my smile. From that day, our connection grew slowly. Sometimes after work, he waited at the gate and we walked together for a short time. He asked me about my family, my childhood, my favorite music. He listened carefully. I liked that. One Friday evening, it started to rain when work finished. I had no umbrella. I stood under the roof, waiting. Peter came out of the building, holding an umbrella. He looked at me and said, "Come, we can share." We walked close under his umbrella. The sound of the rain was all around us. "I like walking with you," he said softly. I felt shy but answered, "I like it too." That night, when I lay in bed, I thought about the moment under the umbrella. My face was still warm. I felt happy, but also afraid. Was this real? Or was I only imagining something that was not there? The next week, Peter asked, "Would you like to visit the city park on Saturday?" I was quiet for a moment, then smiled. Yes, I would. Saturday came. The park was full of green trees and small paths. We walked slowly and talked about many things. We laughed. I forgot about work and time. At one point, he stopped and looked at me. "Sarah, I enjoy being with you." I felt my heart beat again, but this time I did not hide it. "Me too," I said. He walked me home in the evening. He did not rush. He did not make me feel uncomfortable. At the door of my small flat, he only said, "I hope we can do this again." I smiled and said, "Yes, we can." That night, I could not sleep. My mind was full of his words, his smile, and the way he looked at me. For the first time in many years, I felt a new hope. The days after that Saturday in the park felt different. Work was the same, but my heart was not. Every morning when I walked into the factory, I felt a small joy. I knew I would see Peter. I tried to act normal, but inside, I waited for his smile and his, "Good morning, Sarah." One Monday morning, I arrived earlier than usual. I stood outside with my tea. The sun was not high yet. The air was cool. Suddenly, I heard his voice. "You start early today," he said. I turned and saw him standing there, holding his own cup. "Yes," I answered. "I could not sleep well last night, so I came early." He looked at me for a moment and said softly, "Sometimes I cannot sleep either. My mind does not rest." His words made me feel close to him. Even though he was my manager, he was also just a man, with the same feelings as me. From then, we often met before work. We stood outside with our tea or coffee, talking quietly. It became our little habit, something only the two of us shared. But not everything was easy. Some workers started to look at us differently. When Peter came to my table to ask about the work, I felt their eyes on us. Once, during lunch, I heard two women whispering. One said, "Look at her. She is always with the manager." The other replied, "Yes, maybe she wants something from him." My face became hot. I looked down at my food and tried to act like I did not hear. But inside, I felt hurt. I did not want people to think I was trying to get special things. I only wanted to be seen as myself, not as someone using him. That evening, I walked home with heavy steps. Peter noticed. "You look quiet today," he said. I took a deep breath. "Some workers. They talk. They think I am close to you for the wrong reasons." Peter stopped walking. He looked serious. "Sarah, listen. People will always talk. We cannot control them. But I know you. I see your heart. You do your job well. You are kind. That is all that matters." His words calmed me. Still, I worried. I had never been in this kind of situation before. One Saturday, he asked me again, "Would you like to go to the museum with me?" I had never been to that museum. I said yes. The building was big and quiet inside. We walked slowly, looking at old machines and tools. He explained some things to me. I listened and laughed when he joked. At one moment, I stood in front of a painting. It showed a small house near a river. I stared at it for a long time. "You like it?" he asked. "Yes," I whispered. "It feels peaceful." He looked at me and smiled. "Like you." I felt shy and looked away. But inside, my heart warmed. After the museum, we sat in a small cafe near the street. We drank tea and ate simple food. He asked me many questions. "What was your dream when you were a child?" I smiled. I wanted to be a teacher, but life was different. I needed money, so I started work early. He listened carefully. "I see. You are strong. You take life as it comes." I looked at him. "And you? What was your dream?" He smiled. "I wanted to travel. I thought I would see many countries, but my life became work, study, and now this factory. Still, Maybe one day I will see more. That afternoon, I learned something important. He was not only my manager. He was a man with his own past, his own dreams, his own regrets. After that day, we met more often. Sometimes in the park, sometimes at small food places, sometimes just walking after work. He always asked about me, and he always remembered what I said. Once I told him that I liked blue flowers. The next week, he gave me a small blue flower in a glass bottle. He placed it on my table and said, "For your corner." My eyes filled with tears, but happy ones. Still, I was afraid. I asked myself many times, is this real? Or will it end quickly? One evening we walked near the river. The water moved slowly. Lights from houses shone on the surface. He looked at me and said softly, "Sarah, may I hold your hand?" I froze for a moment. My mind was full of fear and hope together. Then I put my hand in his. His hand was warm and gentle. "I wanted to do this for a long time," he said. I smiled, and my voice was low. "Me too." That night, when I went to bed, I could not sleep. I stared at the ceiling and thought about his hand in mine. For the first time in many years, I felt safe. But life is not always so simple. The gossip at work grew louder. Some people smiled at me with false faces. Some whispered when I passed. I felt it every day. One afternoon, I went to the bathroom and cried quietly. I did not want him to see my tears. Later that week, he noticed I was quiet again. "Sarah," he said gently, "please tell me if something is wrong." I shook my head, but he touched my arm lightly. "I see it. You cannot hide." I looked into his eyes. "I feel ashamed. People do not respect me now. They think I want something from you." Peter's face grew serious. "Sarah, I will speak to them." "No," I said quickly. "That will only make it worse. Please, let it go. I will be fine." He sighed, then said, "I do not want you to suffer because of me, but I will respect your wish." Even though I tried to be strong, inside, I was afraid. Afraid that the gossip might break us apart. Afraid that he would one day think it was too hard. Then something happened that changed my view. One day, during a team meeting, Peter spoke in front of everyone. He talked about the factory, about our work, about the future. Then he said, "I also want to thank Sarah, not only for her work, but for her kindness and the way she makes this place better." Everyone clapped. My face turned red, but my heart felt light. For the first time, I was not afraid. He saw me, and he was not hiding it. After the meeting, I said to him quietly, "Why did you say that in front of everyone?" He looked at me. "Because it is true. And because I want the world to know that you are important." I had no words, only tears in my eyes. The weeks turned into months. Our bond grew stronger. We took things slowly, but each step felt real. He met my parents one Sunday afternoon. My mother whispered to me later, "He is a good man." My father looked at him with respect. I felt proud. I felt safe. Still, deep inside, I asked myself, where is this going? Will it last? Or will it end like a dream? One Sunday morning, he asked if we could walk in the park again. The sun was warm. Birds sang in the trees. We walked slowly, hand in hand. Then he stopped and looked at me with serious eyes. "Sarah," he said, "I know we met in a factory, a simple place. But for me, you are not simple. You are the most important part of my life. I feel lucky to have met you. I want to ask you something, but I am afraid too." My heart raced. I looked at him, waiting. He took a deep breath. "Sarah, will you share your life with me?" I felt tears run down my face. My voice shook. "Yes," I whispered. Then louder, "Yes, Peter, I will." He smiled, held me close, and for the first time in many years, I believed in love that was not painful, not heavy, but gentle and true. After that Sunday in the park, life felt brighter. I woke up each morning with a smile. I still went to the factory, still packed boxes, still drank tea during breaks, but now everything felt different. Because now, I had Peter beside me. He was not only my manager, he was my partner. He was my friend. He was my love. At first, we kept things quiet outside the factory. But people knew. They had already guessed, and after he asked me to share my life with him, we did not hide anymore. Some workers accepted it with smiles. Some did not. I heard whispers, but I was stronger now. Their words could not break me anymore, because Peter showed me every day that his love was real. One evening, after work, he walked me home as usual. We stopped at the small shop near my flat. He bought bread and fruit. When we sat down to eat, he said, "Sarah, we must talk about our future. Where do you see yourself in the next year?" His question surprised me. I had never thought far ahead. My life had always been about today, about making enough to live, about small steps. I looked at him and said honestly, "I only know I want to be with you." He smiled. "That is enough for me too." Still, the days were not always perfect. My parents worried. One Sunday, my mother said, "Sarah, are you sure? He is your manager. What if one day he changes?" Her words stayed in my mind. I knew she only wanted to protect me, but I felt afraid again. What if things did change? What if he woke up one morning and decided he did not love me anymore? That night, I could not sleep. I turned in bed and thought of every fear I had. In the morning, I was quiet. Peter noticed. "What is wrong?" he asked gently. "My mother worries," I whispered. "She says maybe one day you will change." Peter took my hand and held it firmly. "Sarah, people change, yes, but love does not have to fade. We build it every day. We care for it like a garden. I cannot promise tomorrow will be easy, but I can promise you I will always respect you and stand with you." His words calmed me. I realized that real love was not about perfect promises. It was about daily choices, small acts, and respect. Weeks passed. Our bond grew. He often visited my parents. My father grew to like him more each time. My mother watched him closely, but even she started to smile more when he came. One Friday, something happened at the factory. A machine broke, and the work stopped. Some workers grew angry. They shouted at Peter, saying he was not managing well. I watched him stand calm and patient. He explained the plan, he spoke kindly, and he never raised his voice. Later, when we walked home, I said, "How can you stay so calm when people are angry?" He smiled a little. "Because anger passes, but words stay. I do not want to use words that hurt. I want to use words that heal." In that moment, I understood why I loved him. He was strong, not in force, but in patience. One Sunday morning, we went again to the park. The air was cool, the trees were green. We sat on a bench and watched children play. Peter looked at me with soft eyes. "Sarah, I think it is time we plan our life together. I want us to live in one home." My heart raced. "You mean?" He smiled. "Yes. Let us find a small place together, a home that is ours." Tears filled my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I want that too." From that day, we started looking for a small flat. We did not need anything big. Only 2 rooms, a kitchen, and light from the windows. After some weeks, we found it. It was simple, but when I stood inside, I felt warm. "This is it," I said. Peter smiled. Our first home. The day we moved in, I placed my few clothes in the cupboard. He placed his books on a small shelf. We laughed at how empty the rooms looked. But I felt full inside. For the first time, I had a place that was not only mine, it was ours. Life together was not always easy. Sometimes we disagreed about small things. He liked to read at night. I liked to sleep early. He liked tea. I liked coffee. But every time we had a difference, we talked, we listened, we laughed, and that was enough. The factory still gave me long days, but when I came home and saw him waiting, I felt peace. He often cooked simple food, and we sat at the table together. We talked about work, about dreams, about nothing special, but every word felt special because it was shared. Months passed. One evening, he came home with a small box. My heart jumped. He opened it. Inside was a simple ring. He looked at me with a gentle smile. "Sarah," he said, "I do not want just to share a home with you. I want to share all of life with you. Will you marry me?" My eyes filled with tears again. I remembered the lonely days in the factory, the quiet tea breaks, the gossip, the doubts. And now, here I was, with this man, holding out his heart to me. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I will." He placed the ring on my finger and held me close. I felt safe. I felt seen. I felt loved. Now when I look back, I see how love came when I least expected it. It did not come with loud promises. It came with small acts of kindness. A smile in the morning, a hand under the umbrella, a flower in a bottle. And now, I wake up each day beside him. I still go to the factory, but life is not the same. My life is warmer, brighter, fuller. Because I learned that true love is not about perfect words. It is about respect, patience, and care. So, dear friends, thank you for listening to my story. If you are waiting for love, please do not give up. Love may come when you do not expect it. And when it is real, it does not hurt. It gives peace. It gives strength, and it feels like home.